welcome to our webinar in discussing handling small data migrations. And so this is about bringing in data into your existing PDM vault. Now, usually migrations are they're crazy. I've rarely had a migration of mass data that went just 100% smooth, and it does a lot of times feel like you're trying to take different kinds of shapes and shove them into the wrong size. So what do? You get a big hammer and you just kind of manhandle things in there. And that's not what I want to cover today. I don't want to go over how to handle these large migrations. Some of these things can take weeks to run through. So this is more in, I've got an existing vault, I've got a structure, I've got workflows, everybody's working, and I've got small bits of data that I get periodically, and I need to get it in. How do I get the data in, and how do I massage it so that I can get all of the properties onto the data cards so that we can search for all this? So let's remember, why do we have a PDM vault? It's so that we can organize our data, put metadata into various documents, and be able to find these as quickly as possible, be able to run reports on them, and then also all the good check-in, check-out controls, revision controls that we have in our PDM systems. So this is about small data migrations. So lots of different things that you can do, and I'm just going to give you some ideas that you can take on your own. A lot of these I have done with existing implementations or post-implementations where I have customers out there and they come to me and request a little bit of help on how to do things. So most everything that you're going to see here today, I've already done with existing PDM customers out there. So folder data cards. So this is a great simple tool to use to drive data down into files. So folder data cards hold top-level information, so project information, customer information, product information, things that are ubiquitous across all documents underneath it. Dispatch. Dispatch is a scripting tool that comes with SOLIDWORKS PDM. It's been around for quite a long time. Today I'm going to show you how to set variables in bulk. So I'm going to select a group of files and be able to update a set of variables on a data card all in one shot. Okay. And set revision. This is something new to 2016. This will allow us to correctly set the PDM revision and stamp it properly into the data card and into the system. Updating values in existing files. So if I move files from one folder to another and I need to get folder data card information down into those files, or if folder data card values change and I need to get that information down into a file, we've got a nice tool, very simple tool to do that. And then finally, workflows. So when we check documents in, they have to go into a workflow somewhere in the system. And I'm going to show you a very simple technique to get files into their proper resting places. So let's kick off with folder data cards. Like I mentioned, these are top-level bits of information, and they pass downstream to subfolders very easily. And if they are already there when you go to bring files in, then that information will go into the file structure. So let's take a look at what exactly I'm talking about here. So first off, what I've got here is I've got a folder called migrations, and in here we're just going to spend all our time in here. I've got one folder for staging. So this is where I'm going to stage everything and then move it out into a projects area. This is kind of based on a plant layout. I had a customer that had thousands and thousands of legacy files, and it was all plant management based. So that's kind of what I've taken that from here. And when I come into here, I've got two types of folders in here. One is the actual location of the document in the plant, so the machine shop, the mill, receiving, shipping, stamping mill, just different locations of our facility. And in here, my folder data card has a single value for the stamping mill, all right, or for shipping and receiving and so on. Then I've got a discipline, so I need to be able to handle everything based on its discipline. So I want to be able to find all the structural documents that are in the stamping mill for this particular project. Okay, so in here I have the discipline defined, and then what we can do is take these folders. I'm just going to grab electrical and mechanical. I'll copy that, and then we'll paste it into the stamping mill folder. Oh, hang on a second. How about we do this? Forgot to clean it out. There we go. So we'll take these and copy and paste these into the stamping mill folder. And now when I do that, now I've got both values sitting underneath electrical and mechanical. So what I'm showing you here is getting my folder structure defined and preparing for documents to be added to them. So how do we do that? Well, we'll just select everything that I have out in a network location or local drive, anywhere other than in my PDM vault. So this is the data that I need to bring into my vault. So just simple drag and drop. Nothing new here. All right, and then we'll go get the electrical data. So the electrical data, I've got a handful of different types of documents here, some PDFs, DWGs, anything will work here. All right, simple drag and drop for those as well. All right, and now when we look at the data cards, now we can see that we've inherited the plant location and the electrical. All right, and the main thing that you want to check in on this is when you look at these cards, the values here, the key here is that the folder data card variable is inherited down into the file data card. That's the key. So as long as that is set there, then any PDF, which is the data card I've got open here, any PDF that I drag in here will inherit that that information. Okay, so that's setting up folder data cards. Again, I just gave you a simple example of how to do this, and the nice thing about folder data cards is they're wildly flexible and dynamic. You can set them up any way you want with any variations of values, and the key here is to get that data card variable set to inherit the folder data card, and then anytime you drag files into that folder, data will get inherited down into the files. Okay. All right, so we've gone through that. Now what we need to do is we've got some card variables that we need to update that didn't come from the folder. We just need to capture some different pieces of the data card and change their variables to whatever it is that we need. And this is where I'm going to use Dispatch. And Dispatch, again, it's a scripting tool built inside of PDM. You don't need to be a programmer. I'm not a programmer, but I can do lots of really great things with Dispatch. In this case, we're going to bulk update variables. I've also used it to rename files, so I can capture a piece of information off the data card or off of a folder and drive it down to the file name. I can reuse serial numbers and drive it down to the file name, or vice versa. I can grab the file name and take parts of that file name or the entire file name minus the extension and put it into the data card, into maybe a description or a keyword or some other variable. All right, so how do we get into dispatch? Well, let's take a look at this. So here's the scenario. So a little different scenario I want you to think about. These mechanical files, SOLIDWORKS files that I brought in, if we look at the revision values, they're at a p-value, and the scenario here could be that I've got a contractor or somebody outside of my organization or a remote user who does work for us, and we send them data, they work on it, they send it back, and oh look, they use their own revisioning values in there, even though we told them not to. You know, even though we gave them templates to use, they use their own templates. We've all come across this before. So what we need to do, though, is we need to get this revision value, this p-value, changed over to, say, a B or a C, whatever revision value I need. So this is, instead of having to walk through each one of these and change this, which can be very cumbersome, I want to do a bulk update, and that's going to run dispatch. So let's go look at how to actually access dispatch and create a quick little dispatch tool. To do that, you go up under your Tools menu and look for Administrative Actions. If you don't see it there, check your user permissions. I would leave this as an admin function, so you have to log in as the admin account. That's what I'm logged in as. And then once you get in here, then you're into dispatch. You can see I've got several here. And this set revision one, this is one that I've already got. We're going to recreate it, but it's very simple, very straightforward. Okay, and the way this works is you hit your add button, you give the dispatch tool a name, so we'll just call this rev set, and then when do you want it to activate? Well, I want to activate it when I'm in the menu, so I'm going to right click on it in the Vault View area and run the tool. Now notice I can run it during a state transition or a checkout or an add operation. This is a real common one where I can tell it on add, collect this file and check it in automatically. So scenario that I've used this for is I've got several customers that have say like an ECN folder structure. So for every ECN they get a folder created with the ECN number, and then inside that folder they can drop files in there, and it's anything that is related to that engineering change. It could be PDFs, Excel documents, Word documents, marked up drawings, anything. But the problem is people will just drag stuff in there and then walk away from it. They forget to check it in, which means it's not going to the server, nobody else can see it, it's not backed up, and on and on. So what we can do is we can use this on add, anything in the ECN's folder with this file extension, automatically check it in. Okay, so it would be conditions, particular path, and then hit the add button. This is where all of our dispatch functions come from, and then here you can see there's a check-in file, and that's what I would have done there. In this case, though, what we're going to do is we want to set a revision value. So the first thing we need to do is create a quick variable, okay, and we'll just call this new rev, and this needs to be what's called a runtime variable. So this only exists while the dispatch tool is in use. All right, and then we need to ask the user, well, what is the new revision value? All right, so we need to ask the user, and when they input that value, it's going to write it to that particular variable. And then what we want to do is write that variable down into our files. Now, to write variables to files or to write any operations to files, you have to do two things. You have to start a for all documents and then end for all documents. So start for all documents, and then under that you run whatever operation for the document. So we're going to set a card variable for all the documents. We've got some options up here. We can have it run to a particular path or a folder. We're just going to tell it whatever files are selected, that's what I want you to run against, and then drop it into the revision data card variable, and then read the value from what the user inputted into that new revision value. Okay, And then once you're done with that, then you have to end for all documents. Okay, so just to go back through here, we're asking the user, what do you want the variable to be? It's going to write it to this new rev runtime variable. You have to enclose your operation with for all and end for all documents. That way it does its operation without having to ask you each time to run that for the set card variables. All right, and then just hit OK, and it's ready to go. So now we've got our rev set. All right, and what we want to do is we want to select all of our documents and then come down to Dispatch menu, and then we can run our rev set. Well, what does our revision value need to be? You give it the new value, hit OK. You don't get a progress bar, and I've seen where these can take a little bit of time, so I like to put a confirmation box at the end just to let the user know that it's done. Notice that in the data card, we've got our new revision value B, but the revision column hasn't updated. That's just because this window needs to be updated. Just hit F5 to refresh it, and now we've got our new values. Okay, and just to show you where else I can use this, if you notice, this particular file is set to built, and this particular file is not set to anything built or purchased. Well, we can see that we've got a bushing and a couple sprockets up here. Those are probably purchased parts. So let's right-click on here, and then I can go run dispatch and quickly set these in bulk to be purchased. All right. And now they are all purchased. And again, I could take that even further and set vendors and anything else that needs to go on the data card. All right, so dispatch, great little tool for quickly updating variables in bulk. Use this little tool all the time. So once we've set that revision, now we need to actually stamp it into the system. So previously to 2016, we had to set either a convoluted workflow to handle revision values from a data card and then actually stamp it into the system. And I'll explain what exactly that means in just a second. Or write some custom API code to do this. Well, in 2016, we now have a set revision tool dedicated just for this. So let's take a look at what exactly does this mean. So when you look at the history of a document, you'll notice that there is no revision value in the event here. It's missing. What that means is, even though this says B in the revision, if I were to run this through the workflow and send it through, under editing, pending approval, and then it gets approved, and on that approval is when the revision gets bumped. Well, this, if I ran it through right now, this would go to A because the system doesn't know that it's at an A. It just knows that the data card value is a B. They're two separate things. So what we want to do is use this new set revision tool. Now, if you notice, it's grayed out. The reason it's grayed out is because these files have to be checked in order to run it. So let's check these in real quick. And after checking them in, then I can run the set revision. There's a little bit of setup on this. You got to set your workflow up to accept the revision value. But once you've done that, then you can select all this and notice the new revision value is A. That's what the system thinks the next revision value is, but we want it to be B. So select the files, right-click anywhere in here, and down at the very bottom